Hi, guys. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. This is Karen here, your favorite virtual assistant. And
Hi, I'm Gail, your customer experience business strategist. It's great to be here for another Sunday chat. What are we talking about today, Karen?
yes, we're going to talk about how do you know when it's time to leave your job. There are many factors when it comes to wanting to leave your job, planning, strategizing as far as leaving your job. But,
Mm-hmm.
some could be based on the negativity, that happens at the job, the lack of the management, communication. It can be biases that happens at a job. But before we get into the actual conversation, yeah, I want to know: do you have to kick this off? Do you want to share anything to start this off?
Yes, well, I think for me, how do you know when it's time to leave your job? It could be that gut feeling,
Mhm.
especially if you are working in a toxic environment. So, toxic environments would be those where you have bad leadership, there's a
Mhm.
lack of communication. People are confused, or different people are told different things. So, there's
Mhm.
no clarity for the communication. There could be no opportunities for learning or no career growth. And
Mhm.
it is just this gut feeling. So, if I give you an example, I worked once in an environment where there was definitely bad leadership. And
Mhm.
every Sunday night, I would get a migraine. And it got worse on my way into work on Monday. All during the week, I would have these niggling migraines. And then I would say, like Friday, by Friday,
Mhm.
it starts to ease up. But that's because, it was so toxic. And then I've worked in other places where they loved what I was doing so much, they refused to let me apply for other positions within the company because I wanted to
Wow.
grow. I
Right.
want to learn stuff. I want to do something different. I don't want to stay in the same position, forever.
Right.
So it's about that gut feeling
Mhm.
that you get that tells you, you know what, maybe it's time to move on. And of course there are other little things. It could be like the big things: sexual harassment,
Yes.
comments about race
Yeah.
or creed or disability or sexual orientation. And if you see these
Mhm.
things happening in your company over a period of time, you've had conversations with your manager and you've talked to HR and there's still no change, well, yes, you might need to make another decision, and it might be time to leave your job, because I don't think any job is worth your mental health or your sanity, or compromising how you are as a human being then when you go home to your family. Because sometimes too, there's no demarcation because you haven't drawn a boundary either. So, I
Yeah.
don't know if you can relate to those bosses that email you at 10 o'clock in the night and they wonder why you haven't responded, or stuff like that. So
Yeah.
what have you had that experience as well?
I have jobs where the leadership was off,
Mhm.
the
Mhm.
culture, meaning the people that work there, right? They would, little sometimes when you depending on where you work at, I always tend to work at places where there's a lot of females, right? And when I
Mhm.
first started, I started at customer service in the dispatch in the car service, like black car service. And the
Mhm.
culture was very toxic because the ladies there, they was very very snippy and very attitude-ish. And
Mhm.
I normally, I'm the type of person, when I go into an environment, I don't really entertain certain things, right? And but then the management too, the people that works there, it all depends on what the management allow and the culture of the place, right?
Mhm.
Even if you have a coworker who comes in there and being disrespectful, who's disrespectful, people that fight and argue. Yes, I have those people who will argue. They will go outside ready to fight, honey. I was like, what is this? But then I was younger,
Mhm.
and now thinking back, I was like, oh no, I could not work in a lot of it. I did it because I needed a job. I needed to, you have to take care of yourself. But
Mhm.
did I have working places where sexual harassment did happen?
Wow.
And yeah, and I was younger then, so I didn't have the power of voice like I have now, where I'm able to speak up for myself more. I was really
Mhm.
more intimidated back then. I was a lot of things. I was very intimidated a lot of things. So a lot of things happened, and my reaction was more like, "Oh my god!" Like froze up. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what to. I didn't speak up for myself. So a lot of things did happen. Let's say disrespect for management, but yeah, I have workplaces like that, and I'm glad. when I left, when I made the choice to leave, I was like, oh, I'm not even upset. I don't know what my next step is, but you know what? I gotta get out of here.
Hmm.
You
Do
know,
you
I
think
have.
do you think sometimes it's hard when you're saying to yourself, okay, you know what, it is time to leave this job, but you can't because of financial
Yeah,
commitments, or you don't have another job lined up, or like, do you think that makes it that much harder? So you know you need to leave, but you just can't.
it does make it harder because you know, in some kind of form or some fashion, you feel stuck. Like, you know, I
Mhm.
hate coming here. I hate this is the era. This is the place where as soon as you wake up and you gotta go there, you're already feeling like your energy is
Mhm.
already off, right?
Mhm.
But you know
Mhm.
that you need that place because you need survival. You know, nobody want to be homeless. Nobody want to be without. So
Mhm.
you stick it out till hopefully something comes along better. You know, and I
Mhm.
had situations where okay, I found better, but I thought it was better when it started. And as the process of the employment, it was like, okay, this is seems like it's kind of to the same culture, you know,
Mhm.
so you feeling like okay, but this time I'm more like it's like wow, yeah, it's like wow, you know, it's like working sometimes is a great thing, but it also depends on the culture of the environment and the place
Mhm.
and the managers. Who are they? What do they what are the kind of things that they don't allow, right?
Mhm.
Because one thing is the staff and the workers, but it's another thing the managers. And sometimes the
Mhm.
management can be the toxic one. Sometimes the leader or the supervisor, the director, whoever that person might be, they the one that could be the toxic that brings the toxicity into the company.
Mhm.
Not
Yeah,
necessarily have to be the
leadership.
employees.
Mhm.
So when it's a situation like that, when it's the manager and the leaders, right? Let's say it's a supervisor, for example, and then the director might know that the supervisor is no good, but they're not doing anything about it. Now you feel like, oh my god, they know that this person is like this, but they're not doing anything.
Mhm. Mhm.
So now for you, it's like, what do I do? Okay, if I go to
Yeah.
HR, it's like, what are they gonna do?
Mhm. But they're
So
supposed to represent you. They
yeah,
are supposed to represent you. I'm just saying, I'm saying
that's what they
before
say.
you leave, just make sure that you've done everything in your power, that you've thought things through. So yes, you can talk to
Yeah,
your manager first. This is what's
yeah,
going on, and give them the opportunity to come up with suggestions, or some kind of resolution. If that doesn't work, then you'll have to be brave enough to go to HR, because HR
yeah.
then might have a conversation with you and your
Hmm.
manager, and people get very defensive. They don't like to be
They
called
do.
out. But
Yeah.
at the end of the day, it's about you and your sanity, and you want to go to work and perform at 100%.
Yeah.
And if the environment is not conducive to you performing at 100%, well, then you have to decide. So if you love the company and the people, and you want to stay there, but there's stuff going on, well, yes, I would talk to the manager, talk to HR, even talk to somebody who's gossiping, or they might be bullying, going on. And then over a
Hmm.
period of time, if you see these things still happening and stuff is being swept under the rug, and you're still getting those migraines, I say migraines, but I've had a job where I had my hair fall out, I had a rash,
Wow.
because it
Wow.
was intense,
Wow.
a lot of overtime, a lot of extra work. And I think
Wow.
that's another thing that people are going through as a result of COVID, where you've had lots of companies downsizing, so they're
Yes.
sending home people because there's no money coming in, there's the pandemic,
Hmm.
and then you are distributing the work of those that you sent home among the people that are left, and
Yeah.
they could have been
Right.
stretched out before.
Right.
And now, you are doing your job and somebody else's
And
job,
somebody. Yeah.
and you can't leave because you need this job. And so what
Hmm.
happens next? It's burnout. It's just
Yeah. I think it's
what it is.
honestly. I think it's really about strategizing, right, and planning. Because
Mhm.
like when we was talking in the background, remember, like right now, everybody's in this. Is everybody's big on entrepreneurship, right? And it's a great thing. Don't get me wrong, Gail. But at the same time, realistically, right? Everybody say, John, leave your job for entrepreneurship. Let me tell you
Yeah,
something.
start your own business.
That's bullshit. I'm gonna
Do
call it
what
like
you're
it
passionate
is.
about.
Right. I'm gonna call it spade for spade. It's not. It's nonsense to me only. Right. If you have a financial mean already, you have something
Mhm.
planned, and you're gonna be okay financially, you're gonna be able to pay your bills. Then please, all by means, focus on your goals. Focus on the
Mhm.
entrepreneurship journey, do it. But if that's not you, you have to think a little further than that, right?
Mhm.
If you able, maybe you are, when it comes to business, you don't always you gotta hustle more than a job. right?
Yeah,
You
you
have
do.
to really put your foot out. You got to put your foot out there. You got to put yourself out there forward to get those, to get the clients that you want and be able to get paid. That's pretty much what it is.
Mhm.
But once you have a certain, let's say if you have a certain amount of money coming in from your business, and you are able to, okay, maybe I cannot do it. Maybe I cannot leave my job necessarily, but I'm able to work part time for my job because maybe the benefits, maybe the insurance part, maybe the 401k or whatever other benefits your company offers. Maybe you're not able to leave yet for completely, but you're able to do maybe part time, but you still be able to supplement that extra income with your business. That's a good idea. Maybe that's something you might want to think about.
Mhm.
But
Yeah, I
I would
think
never
planning is
suggest,
important.
yeah, I would never suggest just up and leave your job if financially you're going to be strained. Me,
Mhm.
I'm not built like that to just I'm going to leave and just that's not who my personality is. So I like to plan according to what makes sense for me. Okay, I
Mhm.
have some okay, somebody's coming in, but I'm able to afford to leave my job part time.
Yeah.
Then that's what I'll do because
I
that makes
agree.
more sense.
I think that one of the things I will say though is that if you feel your
Yeah.
health is threatened by staying, so
Yeah.
for example, you could be working, and I'm just throwing this out as an example, you could be
Hmm.
working in say, a manufacturing plant producing paint, and you're inhaling these fumes all of the time, and you're getting ill,
Hmm.
or you're in this job where everybody knows there's this person that's sexually harassing the ladies or even maybe males because right now everybody's free to do their own thing kind of, and nothing is being done. If you're being hit on all of the time, or you're being harassed, or your job is threatening your health, well then you might want to bring forward leaving
Yeah.
before you have other things
Yeah.
in place, because
Yeah.
you may not, because you're threatened, your health is being threatened. So I
Yeah.
think that's the
Definitely.
only thing.
Yeah.
But I will say
Definitely.
too, two things. If you have a passion for something, I would recommend, if you can, have a side hustle, because if
Yes.
the side hustle allows you to transition into it full time if you have
Yes.
to, leave your job. And I know that for us, the last layoff that I had, like when I was laid off from my job, I
Hmm.
didn't have a side hustle. I didn't have time to have a side hustle.
Right.
But for the several other people who had side hustles, they were lucky. Their side hustles became their main hustle. So
Yeah.
they invested their time and energy into that, and
Hmm.
they still had some source of income, where I was then kind of thinking like, oh goodness, what am I going to do, kind of thing.
Right.
So you need to think of the future. And I will say that entrepreneurship is a lot of grit, grind, and growth. And if you don't
Hmm.
believe me, I'll put a link in the comments afterwards. I ran a series of entrepreneurs' stories where we talked about grit, grind, and growth, and people showed how they got started, how the pandemic affected them, and they give advice. If you're looking to become an entrepreneur, these are the pitfalls you need to be aware of. It's very rewarding, but it is
Yes.
much more work
Yes.
than a
Correct.
job.
Yes.
And
Correct.
Karen, what we were told, that
Yes.
entrepreneurs leave a 40-hour a week job to work 80 hours a week for
That's
themselves.
what they
Like,
say.
how,
Yeah.
go
Yeah.
figure.
But yeah, that's true. But you know what? Honestly, Joy, Gail, for me, I see it as in a way for bigger and better things, right? So
Hmm.
yeah, it's more work, right? But surprisingly, you learn so much about yourself through the entrepreneurship journey. I'll
Hmm.
tell you, I
Hmm.
can honestly
Hmm.
say that for myself. Right, you
Yeah.
learn just how capable you are, your creativity, what kind of leader you are, depending, you really learn more about yourself and your abilities through the journey of entrepreneurship because you have to master yourself,
And you have
right?
no choice. You
And you
have
have
to.
no choice. You really have to put your foot forward. You really have to, put ideas and strategy into place to help grow your brand and your business and help your clients. So
Hmm.
you learn leadership. You learn person to person, communication and how to serve better. So entrepreneurship, yes, it's not easy, but it's rewarding. Not only just for financial gain, but also the relationships that you're going to build with other people, but
Hmm.
also the freedom that you get for yourself and the things
Yes,
that
the
you're able to
freedom. I
show
was
your
hoping you would
family.
say that.
Yes, the
I
things
was
you're able to,
waiting for that.
yeah, the things that you're able to give your family and leave them behind. Because true is working is great, but ultimately that's not going to lead you to financial freedom.
Hmm.
Unless you
And
get lucky to get six-figure paying job. And a lot of us, realistically, we don't really be. It's not. That's not everybody's situation,
Hmm.
right?
And sometimes
So
when you get that high paying job, your bills tend to expand
yeah,
proportionally to
exactly.
your salary. So you still,
Yeah,
you
for
know,
like, so I think for me, it's like, yeah, it's more work, but it's I always see the bigger, the
mhm,
bigger picture and why I'm doing this, the reason behind what I'm doing, and that's really why I think it's important. I was funny thinking. I was telling my other friend yesterday, and I was like, or my cousin, somebody, and I was like, I would have never guessed. Working a job is easier because you're gonna get a sat. You know what you're doing, and you know you're gonna get
mhm.
paid at the end of weekly or bi-weekly or whatever. But when you are entrepreneurship, you really are responsible for yourself and the things that you have to do. You know, that's really what it boils down to. But it's rewarding. It's a
I
rewarding
think
thing.
I think so. I'm agreeing with you. I do find though that because somebody in the comments is talking about an entrepreneurial mindset, and that's very, very important. If when you are
Mm-hmm.
in your job, you run your role as if it was a business, it really changes your mindset. So, like
Yeah.
I had a team of millennials that I was responsible for. And whenever we had a project and you had to make a big decision, I would always say, okay, if this business was your business, what would you do? Think of it as your business because then that gives you the practice of that entrepreneurial mindset so that if you have to start your own business, you already have it. And I will tell you the two things I found out about being an entrepreneur is that there are things you take for granted in your job that you need to be aware of as you transition out. Now, I didn't have a choice. I was
Mm-hmm.
my role was I was severed, so I had to find something to do. But you will learn as an entrepreneur versus your job has systems in place so that there's an accounts department, there's an
Right.
admin, there's marketing,
Mm-hmm.
there are all of these
Right.
departments that do stuff, and then there are all of these systems in place, so you kind of like
Right.
you fall into line, but you don't have to do everything yourself. The communication is there, the systems are there, the processes are there, and then you have to start your
Mm-hmm.
own business and you realize like, oh crap, I have to do all of this myself. But Karen, and I know that you had this experience so as well. My aha moment about being an entrepreneur is that my time is my time. Now I know I have 10 million trillion things to do in my
Mm-hmm.
time, but there's nobody saying you have to go on vacation at this time. You have to take lunch at this time. Like for my birthday, I always had to make sure I scheduled that day within my vacation.
Yeah.
Or, you go to work and you have to say, well, today's my birthday. Can I have some extra time for lunch? Or I might not get back on time or may leave early to go to dinner. It's like, you're always begging for this
But
time, no matter how much overtime you put in or how much of a
yeah,
good work
that's
you are. They
true.
don't even say, well, oh, you're such a good worker. Just take that day
The,
off.
the,
Not as
mm-mm,
a vacation day. Just take it
mm-mm.
off. I don't want to have to take a sick day. But for my vacation, sorry, well, my birthday this year, I didn't have to ask anybody for
That,
any time
wasn't that
off. I
beautiful?
just left home with my son and I did a photo shoot, and then we went to lunch, and then we went for a drive, and
That
whenever
sounds
we
nice.
got back, we got back. But so
How do
there are
you
pros
feel?
and there
How
are
did
cons. Well, that was one of the best birthdays ever. I didn't have to ask my boss nothing because I was the boss, and my boss had already said, "Girl, do whatever you need to do to make this day enjoyable." And I said, "Thank you, boss." you know.
yes, Gail.
Um, so there are pros and there are cons, but
yeah,
as we were talking backstage earlier, if you have to leave your job, you need to plan it first. You
yeah,
need to have a plan in place before you just jump ship, unless, as I said, your health
yes.
or your safety is
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
threatened.
definitely. Mm-hmm.
And if you do happen to be working in a toxic environment, as an example, as we said, you talk to your manager first, talk to HR. If it becomes necessary, I always say talk to a lawyer. Take lots of notes. Sometimes you go
Yes.
into a meeting and you
Document.
cannot, yes, you need to document. You can't
Document.
remember, oh,
Mm-hmm.
did they
Document.
say X on X date at X time? You need to
Mm-hmm.
have a file and
Yeah.
document your stuff.
Document. Yeah.
And be honest. I think though that companies, they focus a lot on exit interviews. They wait until the person is leaving sometimes to ask them, okay, so where are you leaving? What really happened? I believe that those conversations should happen
Before
before
the yeah.
before
I
the
agree.
person has to leave. And when you do resign, give 100% until the end, because don't let anybody tarnish your reputation by saying, oh, she resigned and she didn't do, she didn't perform her duty, she didn't hand over, she left us in the lurch kind of thing. You may want to do that, but don't burn your bridges because you don't
Mm-hmm.
know when you're going to need that person, that bridge that you burnt. And it's always an experience. Learn from the experience and move on. But
Mm-hmm.
I think our conversation here today is good because you can then share your experience with others. So somebody was saying in the comments, sometimes you're afraid to talk up, to speak up because you're afraid of the victimization and you don't know what's going to happen. You don't want to be labeled as, the snitch or somebody who can't handle stuff. But if you don't speak up, they don't know.
They
How
don't
many times
know.
has your boss said, "Oh, but you're resigning. You're not happy." I never knew that. You never said. You know what? You will never say that. Gail never said. Are you sure that my last boss was tired of me talking? I was always talking. I was always saiding. You, I don't say it. I will said to you. You know. So
Yeah,
you don't speak up, they will
that's
say
true.
you never said. So I don't know if you've ever had that experience as well, where you're afraid to speak up because you think you might be victimized.
Yeah, but I know when I was working at that was talking about that was years ago. I really didn't speak up because the company the way it was, right? And that, like, part of it too, it had to do with me because I was not the person to speak up at that time. I was very, I was
Yeah, I
very,
can't imagine you
I
not
was still.
speaking, Karen. I cannot. Like, you're saying
Yes,
you never used
girl.
to speak up, and I
No,
just can't
I
picture
mean,
that.
well, I was the kind of person where things had to boil over for me to really then, but my
Mm-hmm.
reaction after boiling over was not the best because I already
Mm-hmm.
had enough of that.
Yeah.
So I had to learn how to really speak up for myself without allowing myself to be to the point of boiling over. Because
Mm-hmm.
once it boils over, now the reaction is going to be more like maybe screaming, being, like so. Yeah, I honestly would suggest to speak up. I know it might be difficult. Difficult. I know you might feel like you're going to be retaliated, right? But like you said, girls, not speaking up to me is worse than speaking up because now you're suffering on your own. You're quiet. Things
Yeah.
are
Yeah.
happening
You're
to you, and
internalizing
that's
stuff,
not
and
fair.
that's not
Yes,
healthy.
and that's not healthy. That's not fair to you as a person.
Mm-hmm.
So you know, I say always speak to what's happening to you directly, what's going on to you directly, what you don't like, and definitely bring that up forward to your that managers,
Mm-hmm.
supervisor, you know how to say it, but speak up to your superior pretty much, and have that discussion, and then see where that leads you, right?
Mm-hmm.
But definitely, if you are in a place where your mind is already, I need to get out of here, then maybe you need to start putting your resumes out there,
Yes.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you need
Mm-hmm.
to start fixing your resume to put them out there. I don't know, everybody's different, but here we have recruiting offices, right? That's one thing I learned too. They have the recruiting offices that actually put you to work, sometimes temporarily, sometimes depending on the contract, it could be 6 months work, right? And then doing that, and that's how I did. That's how I was able to transition. That's really what started opening my mind, Gail, was I started working through recruiting offices,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I work with them. Maybe I do a 6 month contract, but during that time, I'm working, and you are more during that time. I apply for other jobs, and I go to interview for other jobs. And the recruiting offices, sometimes if they like you, they'll keep you permanently.
Yeah, that's
You
a good
know,
point.
that's
Mm-hmm.
another way of doing it too. So definitely, there's other options. Everybody, I don't know where everybody lives, but here in New York, they do have that. They have recruiting offices where you could work, and it's always based on your niche or your specialty, right? They
Mm-hmm.
have healthcares, they have administrative, they have constructions, they have different kind of administrative offices that can help you look for work. Yeah, the work is not, it's temporarily depending. Some have permanent, depending. Some they have permanent position, and some have temporary, right? So
Mm-hmm.
you decide what makes sense for you. If you want to try it for temporary, if it's work, you do it for 6 months, and you don't know, it could become a permanent job because it's all based on your ability once you get to the job and how you perform. And
Yeah.
then some companies are willing to keep you because they like how you work.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah,
there's always an
that's a
option.
good point.
I will always say, if you feel like I can't no more, I cannot do this, it's not worth your mental just health and your mental. Definitely, if you're getting harassed, like you say, Gail, and if you feel like your health is at risk and your safety,
Mm-hmm.
that's not a conversation. That's not something you need to be considering. I think that's more like, okay, in 2 weeks, I need to be out of here or
Mm-hmm.
whatever. If it's to the point where you can't take it anymore, then I know it's unrealistic, but leaving, if you feel like it's too much torment for you, just leave. And if you have able to apply to recruiting offices, apply to recruiting offices. Send them your resume. Talk to a
Mhm.
recruiter, and then they'll be able to get your job. And those people usually get your job right away. But at
Mhm.
least you're working, even if it's a 6 months and 3 months. But the recruiter will keep you if you build a good relationship with your recruiter. They'll constantly make sure you have work. Hey, my this job is about to be over in a week. Do you have something for me before this is
Yeah.
over? So you can keep overflowing of work till you find something more than what you like.
Yeah, or you can volunteer as well. If you are
That
in a
too.
specific industry,
Yeah.
you can volunteer, kind of like
Yeah.
an
Definitely.
internship,
Definitely.
or you can join an association.
Mm-hmm.
An association is very good for networking,
Yeah.
so that
Definitely.
if you are looking, you can just spread the word among
Mm-hmm.
your network in that association that you're looking, and people will help
Yeah.
people, but you
And
would
act.
need
Yeah.
to
I
be
agree.
doing something, to let people know that you're
Mm.
looking for a job. And
Yeah. Ask your friends and family. Maybe their company is hiring.
yeah,
And they can use you.
friends and
But
family.
I mean, you know what? Too, I don't have a problem with getting people into the door, right? I always have friends hire people. If I have a company and I know because I'm a good performer, and I get along with I get along with the managers and the hiring people, and I know somebody need a job, I'll be like, hey, put your resume in there and I'll help you out. But of
Yeah.
course, don't mess it up for somebody else. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? Like that's my biggest thing. I don't mind helping you get in, but the way I process things is don't if you're not gonna be true to the job, you're not gonna come here and do your work. Don't mess it up because you don't know who else I could help do the job, who else I
Mhm.
could bring in.
Well, not only that, I don't want you messing me up because people are
But
gonna
but
say,
yeah,
"Oh, well, Karen brought
yeah,
her or
yeah,
him,
yeah, that
and
too.
he's not doing." So it reflects on you. So
It does
unless you
reflect on
wanna
you. It
be
does.
good,
It really
it's
do.
okay. I will
Yeah,
pass.
yeah, that's true. But I always think about that because that way, maybe down the line, I could help somebody else who might need a
Mhm.
job, right? But
Mhm.
because I have a good relationship with the hiring people, I can help that person get a job.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I always think of not just myself, but anybody else that could come behind that job that I could help bring in if they need to have a job, even if
Mhm.
it's a temporary thing. But it doesn't matter. The
Yeah.
point is that
I
they
agree.
have be able to work.
Yeah. So before we get to the comments, let's just to summarize. You know when it's time to leave your job because you normally have a gut feeling, or there's
Yes.
something happening over an extended period of time that even though you've spoken to your manager, your HR,
Mm-hmm.
it has not changed. Then you need to make sure you have a plan in place, especially if finances are going to be an issue. You need to
Yes.
think that through. As Karen
Mm-hmm.
is saying, you need to think about updating your resume, get the word out that you're looking for a job. It may not happen immediately, so network, see what's available out there, examine your options, talk to your family, your immediate family, because it will affect them as well, that decision, because that's a big decision. And I would say too, don't be afraid to speak up, but draw
Yes.
your boundaries. Make sure that
Yes.
you have your boundaries drawn in the sand so that people don't take, advantage of you. So Karen, you want to go to the comments? Let's see.
Okay,
We have
so somebody had a good
four.
question here, and I'm gonna post it. How do you ladies suggest you handle being in a toxic environment and can leave as of yet? So how would you you say you're in, and I'll speak how I will handle it, and then based on who makes whoever Kay. So you decide based on what makes sense for you. How would you like to handle it? Because I know how I will handle it. But the heck, you start Kay.
Well, I
How
was
would
gonna
you
say
handle it?
you speak to whoever you need to speak to. Again, manager, HR. Always be professional. Don't let your
Mm-hmm.
performance suffer because your environment is toxic,
Yeah.
and do the best that you can until you can execute on your plan to leave. Because
Mm-hmm.
it's not going to happen immediately. As Karen said, we
Right.
understand you might need to put a plan in place. So give
Yep.
yourself that leeway. Don't be too hard on yourself, and have what I call coping mechanisms. So you might want to go and just take 5 minutes walk on the outside. I know a lot of people are working remotely. You can do your breathing,
Mm-hmm.
make sure you are healthy, drink your water, eat your fruit. Try to have things in place that will support you mentally and emotionally while you're going through the toxic environment. And I learned too, Karen, when we were doing research for this, is that even though you work remotely, you can still have a toxic environment. It could be that person bullying you online, your manager who doesn't understand,
Yeah.
the amount of work involved, or they're not drawing the line, like cutoff time is 5 o'clock and you sent me the email at 10 and you expect me to respond, and when I have a conversation it's like, well, you wanted
I
this
don't
job
even.
kind of thing,
Yeah.
so do the best you can, but identify. No, okay, when you tell yourself, I definitely need to leave this job, that's where it starts. Because sometimes, we
Yes.
hem and haw, do I want to leave? Do I not want to leave it? When you decide, you know what, this is it, then you start to put your plan in place.
Yes, that's a good. That's pretty much how we do it, girl. We think kind of like her. We think
Yeah.
alike. Yeah, definitely do your best. Plan. Ready. Start putting your resumes out there, and ask people
Yeah.
that you know in your network. You know who's hiring, so you can
Hmm.
start really strategizing to get out. That's
Yeah.
how it pretty much.
Kay is also saying that sometimes speaking up doesn't work to your benefit. It
Oh, this is
doesn't.
incident.
It doesn't, but it does. Like it
It.
doesn't because
Mm-hmm.
you might be victimized or people might, but it does because people will never be able to say she didn't say or it wasn't raised or nobody ever said this was an issue. So you
Yeah.
need to frame it, think of it that way because you might always ask yourself after you leave, should I have said something? What about the other people who are
A
still
written,
there?
yeah. If it's,
You know?
yeah, definitely. If it's
Yeah.
so toxic, I will always say have written documentation, like send an email to your manager. Hey, as per our conversation, like a follow up email.
Mhm.
I always believe because that's one thing I had to learn. Like, we talk, right? You and I having a conversation with your manager. But then when things get bad at the job, and then you say, "Well, I spoke to my manager about it," they're gonna be like, "You need people." At that point, people are there to protect their job, and they're gonna act like you need to speak to them about it,
Mhm.
right? Because
Mhm.
that situation happened to me before. When I spoke to my manager about something, and then things got really bad, and then that's when higher ups had to get in, and the manager was like, "Well, you didn't talk to me about it, but yes,
Yeah,
I
because they have
did."
memory lapses. They have memory
Right.
lapses. Yeah,
That's what you looking. Yeah, that's what you looking like. You looking.
Listen, it is
Yeah.
true. It is true. And then I say, boss, we had this conversation, and if you're having a memory lapse, you need to take more ginkgo biloba and work on that because this is not going well. I told you my boss didn't like me. Too much talking, but because they will take you to the wire unless you call them out.
Yeah, definitely
You know,
writing. That's what I believe in.
you're
That's
not
what I.
calling me
Yeah,
out.
you
We had
right.
a
You
conversation.
right.
Sorry, get your vitamin B if that's what you need for your memory.
This
Anyway,
is why.
that's just an aside.
Yeah, this is why I say writing,
What else?
documenting is very important, just
It
in
is.
case.
You need to. I
You
know
never
it's
know,
tedious. You might think it's not necessary until
but
it's
it is.
necessary.
And yeah, that's true.
Write
You're right.
everything because you never know
You
when it
right
will
up
come
that
back
yeah,
to bite you. I'm just saying.
yeah,
Write
yeah.
everything down.
That's true. All right, so pretty much everybody say, Carolyn put, if your health is being compromised, you need to put a strategy in place to start the
Yes,
process in
you
leaving.
definitely
That's
do.
right.
Agree.
That is
Mm-hmm.
100% correct. It
Mm-hmm.
helps. Somebody said it helps
This is Danielle.
when, yeah, that is, where is it?
Go ahead. Sit there.
It helps when we develop a entrepreneurship mindset. It benefits not just the organization, but the environment. It's toxic. It makes it less stressful to know if you have to leave, you have something to fall back to. This is true.
Mm-hmm.
That's definitely true. You guys really put in
Yeah.
the comments today. Thank you guys.
Yeah.
um, Plus, when you're doing something you love and enjoy, yes, it does
It
not feel
doesn't
like
be
a
like a job.
job. This is
Yeah.
100% accurate. This comment. This
Yes,
is
it
true.
is true.
This is true. Yeah. So let's see. Yes, girls. Sometimes time is my time. I love being an entrepreneur. I love being an entrepreneur. I am in control of my environment. This is so
Mm-hmm.
true.
Mm-hmm. The
Your
buck
time
stops
is
at
your.
you.
Yes. One thing, Gail, is this. Um, few years. I used to work for my birthdays, all jobs, right? I used to always
Mm-hmm.
work for my birthday. But a few years ago, I had met this lady, and she was like, "Do you work?" I don't know how the conversation sparked. I be talking to people, just come to me randomly talking to me, and she said, I was telling her, "Oh yeah, I think it was my birthday." She was, "It's my birthday." She was like, "Girl, why are you working on your birthday?" I said, "I don't know, because I always work on my birthday." She was like, "You only live one life. Why would you give your company your day,
Mm-hmm.
right?" And since then, I take off for every birthday. I don't care.
How do you take off? Do you take it
Well, I
as
still work.
PTO?
Yeah, I take it as a vacation. I don't care.
Mm. I don't
I
want
take it.
no. I don't want to give up my vacation.
Girl, let me tell you something. I'm the kind of
I know
girl.
you have
Listen,
to. You have to
I'd
because
be
it's
like,
important. But that's so wrong. They
yeah,
should give
I
you your
do.
birthday off.
Not these
With
people,
pay.
girl. They're not gonna let. They're not. I wish it was like, I wish it was like, take it off because it's your birthday and enjoy your day. They're not gonna do that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I do it for myself, and I just take the time off. And
You
definitely,
know,
guys, take days off from work. Your mental health is important. Whenever you feel like
it
you need
is.
that time off, please don't be like, just take it off. Some people be calculating. I understand the importance of PTO on vacation, but listen, they here to cover them days when you want to take off, honey. You know what I
That is
mean?
true. That
Right.
is
Take
true.
them if you feel like
Have
you
you
need it.
ever, sorry, go ahead. You go ahead.
No, go ahead. Yeah, I'm
I
done.
was gonna say, have you ever had the experience where you're at a job and everything you're doing is urgent and you know there's a timeline attached to it? So I had a job where until they could find somebody to help, I had to do everything myself, and this included lots of overtime. I'm working on weekends. I'm
Wow.
working on during my vacation, and
Wow. Wow.
it was so intense that I got ill. So
Wow.
and the first it was a series of times off from work. So the first 2 weeks, I'm telling my boss I'm gonna be off for 2 weeks, but we have these deadlines. You're gonna have to bring in somebody
Mm-hmm.
temporarily so we can meet these deadlines. Oh no, no, we're gonna be good. So what I did the first week that I was off when I wasn't supposed to be working, I decided, you know what, let me just meet the deadline and then they can figure it themselves out. Then when I went back to the doctor at the end of week 2, she gave me 2 more weeks off. I spoke to my boss. Oh, the work will wait. When I went back at the end of week 4, I got 2 more weeks. So we are now at 6 weeks. That entire period of time that I was off from work because I could not work, the work was not done
Wow. Really?
because it was okay.
So it's
But
not urgent.
before, when I wasn't ill and I was working, the deadlines had to be met.
You see,
And there
that's
was no leeway,
nonsense.
there was no negotiating. The work was the work. So you learn. That's why I said learn from the experience and make
Mm-hmm.
sure that you cover yourself. And this is where when you're burnt or something like that happens, then the burn is so much that you will speak up. So that
Yeah.
is when you learn that when you go on vacation, you are not accessible. Or when you need to
Yes.
take a mental health day, and those
Please do
days are
not.
becoming
Yes.
more and more
Please.
important for us. No, you need to just get away or somebody will die. Take the mental health day
Yes.
and you're not accessible because
Yes.
the work will stay, or if something happens to you,
Mm-hmm.
they will replace you. There's
That's true.
no there's no I'm sad to say there's no
Mm-hmm.
commitment. I don't know.
Yeah, I
I
agree with you, Gail. Like if like once you off like me, once I'm out of work, whatever time that out of work is, and I punch out off work, you call me, I'm looking at that phone like, oh, okay.
But
Yeah, I
it's
listen.
different for people. For me, in the beginning, I answered
Listen.
the phone because I hated surprises, and I found that people would wait until you go on vacation, and then
No.
do things to show you up, or do all this extra stuff to say, "Oh, well, she didn't do this before she left." And I hated surprises, and I was trying to avoid the surprises. But then after you're burnt, I do like you, like, "Oh, somebody's calling." Like, okay, well, I'm on vacation.
Yeah.
I'm not accessible, or oh, you were trying to reach me after 10 o'clock. No,
Yeah. Because you
so
know
I'm
what
agreeing with
too?
you.
No,
I'm
I
agreeing.
agree,
So
Gail.
why would people call you though,
Because
Karen? They know
you
you're on vacation. Why? I don't
I
know.
don't know, but you know what? Too, it teaches people boundaries too. When you start
Yes.
answering on them phones after you clocked out, unless it's like a dire emergency, then I'll answer it yes. But if it's
Mhm.
something that could wait till tomorrow, when it's not a dire emergency, I'm not answering my phone. I'm not going to give you that. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I feel like you have to create them boundaries with people, and I include employers and whoever you work with as well. You have to
Mhm.
create those. Like once I'm out of work, unless it's like a dire emergency and things are really serious, then okay, I'll answer it. But if you're just asking me something random that I could wait till tomorrow to answer, oh yeah, tomorrow I'll be here. I'll give it to you tomorrow.
Mhm. Or
It's
next
not
week.
a rush, right?
But you know what it does? It shows too sometimes that a lot of businesses they don't have succession plans in place. A succession plan is
Mm-hmm.
that when Karen goes on vacation, the work gets done by somebody else, or it's automated, or there's
Yes.
something there. Because you might go on vacation, yes, they know you're coming back, but suppose you had an extended illness and you need to be off from work for 8 weeks. What are you telling me? The business shuts down for the 8 weeks while you're not there? You can't call me. God forbid I'm in surgery. I'm not going to be able to answer the phone when you call me. I'm not going to be able
Yeah.
to respond to an email. So why haven't you put a plan in place? And that is all of these little things add to the pressure of this mental health awareness thing that we're going
Mm-hmm.
through. And then people wonder why we're stressed out and why we're burnt out is because there are no systems in place to support work
Mm-hmm.
being done in a healthy way. Work can be done in a healthy way. And I still think that if a company was progressive, they would give you your birthday off with pay. I
I
still
hope
there. I am
so.
bitter about that, but
But I
yes.
hope that if there's a company out there, let it please let it be, because that would be nice. That would be very nice.
Yes,
You
and as
know,
Danielle is saying, we're not invincible. While we're at work, they make us think, "Oh, we cannot exist without you. We need you to do this job. You do it so well." But Danielle, let something happen, and you'll see how quickly the job will be done. It's sad though. It's
it
so sad.
is.
It is so
Yeah,
sad. And
that's true.
and that is why. And I'm not saying it's a direct connection, but I've been in an organization where somebody was going through stuff like this quietly in the background, and then they come into the office and they go postal. And people say, "Oh, that was Karen. She was so quiet. How can she go postal?" She's going postal because things were happening and they were never addressed. And that's why HR plays such an important role, A. And B, that's why people hate HR because they do not think that HR does a good job representing the employees.
Yeah,
They always represent the employer only. And I'm not
yeah,
saying it's all HR people. I'm just
yeah.
saying
Right.
the general perception out there is that HR
That's
doesn't
true.
doesn't do a good job where when it comes to supporting people. And then
Yeah.
somebody comes to work with a gun and shoots everybody at the front desk and the offices. And then people wonder
Oh,
why. It's because they're upset. And like you said, the point where something triggers you and it
mm-hmm.
burns and boils because you haven't addressed it. So I said all that to go back to the comment. Speaking up helps avoid all of that. And you may not get the result you want from speaking up, but it will diffuse the anger. And it shows you if you've spoken to the people that can make a change and they don't make the change, the writing is on the wall. Yes. Let's fast track leaving that job and letting you go to somewhere where you're appreciated and you can be in control of your own time.
Yeah, but you know what too? Speaking up makes you feel empowered as well.
Yeah,
Right?
because
Like even if
you've
nothing, even if
covered
even
it. Yeah.
yes, even if the result is not what you hope to be, but
Mhm.
ultimately you're gonna feel empowered because you spoke up for yourself.
Yeah.
So I
So
always think that
do you
speaking
think
up is
going back, if you
important.
look, if you had to talk to your younger self, the Karen that didn't speak up when she was younger, what would you tell her? Do you think that if you had spoken up when you were younger, it would have made a difference or no?
I think it would have. Even if I think even if it didn't make a difference with the company that I work for, but I feel
Mhm.
like ultimately it would have made a difference for me, right?
Mhm.
Because it would have
Mhm.
made me feel empowered. Would have made me feel like, oh, you know. And I know sometimes it's difficult to bring up certain discussions because discussions can be difficult. You know, you don't know how it's going to go, and I get that. But ultimately, however the consequences go behind a discussion, you're gonna feel like great behind it. Oh man, I spoke up for myself. I feel good. So when
Yeah.
things happen for a
Yeah.
second time, it's easier for you to speak up
Mhm.
because you're already using
Mhm.
that muscle. So I
Yeah.
think speaking up is important. Just however the outcome is, that doesn't even matter. Hopefully, it's for the best. But if it's not, you ultimately did the job for yourself to speak up, to
Yeah.
say whatever it is you want to say how uncomfortable you feel about something, and and leave it there because
Yeah.
you're not responsible for other people how they react, but you're responsible for
Exactly.
yourself.
I agree
So I think
300%.
speaking up is empowering for you. I had to learn
Yeah.
that, Gail. So this is why, girl, I
And
speak
it's
up.
hard.
Any
It's hard.
speaking up is empower.
You
Yeah,
have to
it
be
is.
brave.
It
Yeah.
is, especially when the discussion can be very difficult.
Mhm.
You start to really like. For me, I start to play the discussion in my head before I actually have the discussion.
Mhm. So you
But
be prepared like a
yeah,
FAQ.
you know what I mean? And I'm going to prepare what I'm going to say, how I'm going to say it,
Yeah.
because you have to know yourself and you have to know how you come forward.
Mhm.
So I have to learn how to be assertive because sometimes I come off like, da, 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 right? But you have to know how to speak up without giving so much of the attitude because sometimes it gets lost in the message, right? So
Mhm.
that's what
Mhm.
that's important as well. So I think it's not just communicating, but how you communicate is important too.
Yeah. And if you feel that your manager or your HR person may have convenient memory lapses, you can always invite a third person. I started to do that. Let's have a third person. They
Yeah,
could be a silent observer so that
yeah,
when
definitely.
somebody has a memory lapse, the third person can say, "No, yes, I remember Karen did say that, or Gil did say that, or yes, we did have a meeting. I was there." Just to cover yourself, there are things that you can do. And if people are adults and they don't,
Hmm.
because you're not trying to show them up and they shouldn't feel threatened, you're all
Right.
at work together professionally. We just want to make sure that what is said is
what is
recorded.
the truth? Yeah,
Yeah, and is the
definitely.
truth, because people also don't, they aren't truthful sometimes.
Yeah, especially when it comes to saving a job, they're not always going to speak the
Yep.
truth. Let's be
Yeah, and it's
realistic. They're
never
not.
them, you know. And that's one of the things we had to assign of a toxic workplace is if you work for a boss and they love their blame.
The
They always
blame
play
game.
the blame game. It's never their fault.
Hmm.
It's always your fault, even if they didn't give you enough information or they give you the wrong information or they just
Hmm.
don't care. But it's never their fault. How much of a job you want to be committed to if it's always your fault
Yeah,
when
that's
it's not
true.
your fault.
Hmm.
Yeah, I've had
That's
that as
true.
well. I've had lots of interesting
You
work
have a lot of
experiences.
experiences. Yeah.
I have, and I'm still
Get-
here, and I'm still smiling, Karen. Isn't that amazing?
That's
Like,
important. Yeah, I think that's important. Listen, we're about to close this conversation, but then
yes,
lastly, Gail, anything you want to say before we close that you want to advise somebody? Maybe somebody can take it
I
in and it can be beneficial to them.
I would say that look for the signs.
Mm-hmm.
There are signs that tell you when it is time to leave your job. Your gut
Yes.
will tell you.
Yes.
It will tell you, and then your body will tell you. As I said, you could have a rash, migraines, your hair could be falling out, but
Mm-hmm.
there is signs, and when you see those signs, then you need to have a plan in place. Don't I would not suggest leaving without having that plan in place,
Yeah.
and you will need time to work your plan. It's not going to happen immediately, so try to last out in this job maybe 3 months, 6 months while you work your plan, so that when you leave, you have a peace of mind. Like, I did the best I could under these circumstances, but it really is time to move on. And don't ever forget the value of networking and talking to somebody.
Yes.
People are there. Just find somebody you trust and who's loyal to you and confidential, that you can have a conversation with, because sometimes you might think, oh, I'm imagining stuff, it's not as bad, but then you talk to somebody and they say, yeah, you need to be out.
Mm-hmm.
You need to get
Sometimes,
out of
yeah,
that job as soon as possible. You
that's
need
a
to talk
good
to
one.
somebody.
Sometimes we tend to minimize things. No, it's not
Yes.
that bad. It's okay.
Yeah.
It's not,
You talk to somebody, you
no.
say, what,
Yeah.
like, you need to be gone. Don't let me have to come and talk to your boss. That
Yeah.
would be me.
Yeah. But yeah, I agree with you, Gail, 100%. But the last thing that I really want to leave everybody with is listen, I think it's all about strategizing, right? If you feel like your
Hmm.
mental health is terrible working in that environment, definitely put a plan in motion for you to leave. Right? That could be putting resumes out there. That might be maybe stepping out to working with a recruiting office. Definitely
Hmm.
put the strategies out there. But whatever you do, speak up for yourself, and of course think how you're going to say things, what points you want to bring forward, so you're not just rambling around with no point. So definitely think about that, how you want to say what you want to say. And even if the conversation does not lead you anywhere, that you hope that it will lead you, but ultimately feel proud of yourself because you did the work,
Hmm.
you spoke up for
Yeah.
yourself. And even and you're going to feel good about that. So I hope
And
that
what did you tell
comment
it? And what
helps.
did you say in the back end, Karen? At
What
the
do you
end
mean?
of the day, people, you are responsible for
For
you.
yourself.
Your
Yeah,
boss
you're
is
right.
not responsible for you. They're not
You're right.
responsible for your mental health. They're
You,
responsible for maybe for you making a decision, but at the end of the day, the buck stops with you, and you
yeah,
have to do you and be true
yeah.
to you. Karen
Boom.
taught me that.
Yes. Listen, it's good to everybody talk about. I mean, I believe like it's good to be selfish sometimes. It's good
Mhm.
to be. It's
Mhm.
nothing wrong. We are so in tune with saying, "Oh, selfish is bad. Selfish is bad." No, honey,
It's
selfish
not.
could be good.
Mhm.
Okay, because it keeps
Mhm.
you in a place of peace, your mental peace, and it keeps you in a place of just, being comfortable and easy with yourself, right? And then the more you are able to do that with yourself, right? Love yourself and put into yourself and pour into yourself, you're able to do that to others. So selfish is not bad. So just a tip for today.
Yep.
So we're gonna close it out with that. And y'all
Yep.
have a beautiful Sunday and take
Thanks for
care,
being here,
guys.
everybody, and we'll see you
Bye.
next Sunday.